Chungking Express is a 1994 movie that mashes a lot of genres, and it is still a beloved movie almost 30 years after its release, as seen by the aggregate ratings on the internet. When IMDb and Letterboxd.com agree on the greatness of a movie, it probably is pretty good. But a number of viewers likely struggle with this movie, whether they're watching this for class or film school or on their own. And so I want to make this video. Here are the 10 shots that help explain this movie. Now, by explain, I don't mean tell everything about the movie. These are not the key to the movie. They're just shots that open up possibilities for you to interpret the movie better, to see it in a new light, and to explore the movie further. And I'm making this video to help my students, a number of whom struggle with this movie, so let's go. The first shot I want to focus on is when the two stories in this movie meet at about the 40-minute mark. Now, there are two halves to this movie in two different stories. One, there's a cop who falls in love with a woman who wears a blonde wig, and she's involved in illegal drug trafficking, which is an ironic noir sort of story. The second half of the movie is a cop falls in love with, or kind of falls in love with, a waitress at a midnight express, at a fast food express place. And here you have a blend of movies, the noir and crime stuff with rom-com material. These stories meet and touch almost, and they're in the same movie, but maybe they have nothing to do with each other. That's one of the themes in this movie. In fact, two people, two worlds, two buildings, two objects. Here are two stories nearly coming together and touching, but not quite. And so at this moment, this is when the movie switches from the first story to the second story with these characters. And you'll see the little sliver of space in between them barely touching. They never end up knowing each other. And this is an interesting question for this movie. Do these two stories in this film have anything to do with each other or not? Are they the same story with variations on the same story? Do they interrelate, or do they have nothing to do with each other? That's one of the major questions in this movie, and not just about stories, but about individuals, characters in this movie. A second shot then to focus on is a image that relates the ideas I just talked about in the previous shot. The spinning CDs in the jukebox in the bar, a shot seen several times in the movie. You'll notice that these CDs are right next to each other, and they look like they're overlapping each other given the camera perspective, but really they never touch. Now, this movie is about glitz and glamour and shininess. The color yellow is everywhere, representing pineapple and other things. The idea of California dreaming, of fantasies. And so these CDs have a superficial or aesthetic aspect to them in which things shine, things glow, and they're attractive and they're fun and fashionable. But they're also lonely and isolated, right? Because they can't touch and they can never meet. And also, maybe it's all just a superficial world in this jukebox. Now, music becomes a big idea in this movie. In both stories, music is played here with the jukebox in the first story, later with Faye and the California Dreamin' CD. In the second story, in the song California Dreamin'. So maybe the music represents the dreaminess of life in an urban environment, and these characters all want something more, and they can't get it out of their urban environment. But these CDs are really interesting because they are together, but they never touch or collide. And one more image on that very idea, you'll notice in the opening, the first minute of the movie, where you get the cityscape, noir, dark city, the buildings nearly touch but don't. And at this very moment in the movie, the narrator, the voiceover narrator says, people can meet, but they never know each other. People brush past each other in big cities, but never meet up. This idea of isolation and loneliness in cities, and if you can find the other person, the partner you can bond with, a friend, then you've got something special. But notice, people don't come together, the CDs don't come together, the buildings don't come together. They're almost touching, but not quite. So this movie is definitely about, in my view, isolation and loneliness, especially for young people who long for and pine for a partner, a friend, and they can't find one in this lost urban environment of Hong Kong. All right, so here's another shot, and there's a dozen or more shots of this. The first cop character in the first story who is contained, confined, and isolated. Here he is in his apartment, and you see him in this very narrow space. Now, I know in certain Asian cities you're cramped. According to my view, you don't have a lot of room to move, so maybe this is just a naturalistic way of expressing this setting. But I think that this movie is showing these characters as contained, confined, and cramped. all the time, all over the place in these cities. So this first cop character is super lonely. He's so lonely that he pledges he'll fall in love with the first woman who walks into a bar, and that woman happens to be an illegal drug trafficker. Ironically, that he's a cop. And here you see him in the city with foregrounding with these cans that he says are going to expire in the movie. All things expire, as he puts it in this movie, including relationships, including people in their lives. What's the meaning of things that expire, only last for a few seconds? The glitz of life for only a few seconds that fades away, which is probably related to the pineapple in this movie. Now, of course, you see in a lot of these shots, you'll have to notice the color yellow. So it's right there, it's that bottle of soap right next to him, kind of indicating, I think, this shine and this hope of the pineapple on the one hand in the first story, and the California dream and the glitz of yellow gold sunlight, maybe from California, in the second story of the movie. Look for that color yellow throughout. It's peppered all throughout the movie. Now, maybe there's possibility for love in this movie, and that hope is not just within the characters, but given to viewers. And so you see, at this moment, the two characters in the second story almost collide, almost touch. He's trying to tell her the order, even though her music is too loud, she can't hear him. So they nearly connect here, at least in a two-dimensional sense. Of course, in three dimensions, they're farther away. But he's trying to tell her the order, and thus we're having a communication breakdown, but trying to get over that communication breakdown. And so she hears him, what he wants. She is going to help him out in the rest of the movie, and it's kind of delightful in a sense. He gets what he wants in a sense, a partner, but a hidden one. She's pretty faithful to him in helping him out with his sad sack life. She also, though, dreams of California. So the end of this movie is at once melancholy, forlorn, but another, since the characters, or at least one of them, kind of gets what they want. Here again, you have that theme of they almost touch but don't. We hope that they will touch in this movie. This movie tries to drudge up the longings that we have, I think, as viewers, for two people to get together, a la most rom-com material. Now we have to deal with the Midnight Express place, the setting in this movie where everybody meets up, in a sense, over food. But here you have the isolated, lonely character, the first cop in the first story, on the far left side. Noticeable are the condiment bottles that can connect or separate these characters. The food connects these characters in some way, shape, or form, as it does in a number of movies like Babette's Feast or Ratatouille. Food brings people together. Feasting brings people together. On the other hand, you've got this character isolated and alone, and he's pining over May, his girlfriend, who I don't think we see in this movie. Will never come back to him. But he keeps buying those pineapple cans because May has expired, his girlfriend, and he's thinking about May 1st coming up, his birthday coming up as well. Noticeable in this shot, and this is throughout this entire movie as well, are the corporate products. Here you have Coca-Cola right next to him. A number of Americanized products, whether it be Garfield, obviously California itself in this movie, and Coca-Cola here, show up in the movie. Noir images, classic Hollywood images, like the girl with the blonde wig. You have an American in this movie. This movie is about, in a way, how Hong Kong is Americanized. Now, I can't say too much about that. A viewer will have to interpret that as they wish, but these characters live in a commercialized world, and nevertheless, they are isolated individuals and lonely. So they should feel happy on the one hand because all these wonderful commercial products that are making their life better, giant corporations that are advertising everywhere. And this is kind of a Blade Runner setting or scenario. I think this movie, 12 years after Blade Runner, so has some of the same vibe and feel to it, partly because it's a noir anyway. Late in the movie, you have this absolutely wonderful shot. There are a lot of great visual effects in this, cinematography, motion effects that are pulled off in this movie by the director. I love this one because here you have the character, the second cop, in the foreground, static, and he's pining over Faye, who has left him. She's supposed to go meet him on a date, but she's not there. Well, there he is, waiting for her, and you see the passage of time in the background as things rush by in a blurred motion. He's in the foreground, static, not moving. The background is really dynamic and blurry. I think that sort of stuff is all over the movie, the idea that you are a static character, things are moving by you quickly, things pass quickly, things expire quickly, and there you are waiting, hoping, longing, but not getting what you long for. And the second cop embodies that, as does the first cop. Wonderful shot here that shows the loneliness and lostness of these characters in the city, hoping for a date from Faye. I love this image from also the date setting, the California themed restaurant in Hong Kong. You know, here again, it's an Americanized place transported into an Asian environment, and you get a fragment of it with this wonderful, you know, yellow image with the word California being yellow, but this sort of haunted, dark, noir stuff in the background, that blurry purple red stuff. And you get a fragment, California, but only part of the word. You know what the word is, but you only see a part. It's the idea that maybe you can see the whole at some point and thus have all of it, but you only have a part that is fragmented. This movie is very fragmented, obviously, with the things that come up together but can't quite meet, with two stories that are maybe have nothing to do with each other. They're two fragments spliced together into a movie in terms of the two stories. This movie, fragmentation, the idea of the individual being fragmented in all sorts of ways, comes up in this movie. So I love this fragment of the word California prominently displayed here near the end, really amping up the hope, but the longing and loss that these characters face. I love this moment when Faye shows up at the apartment of the second cop. He doesn't know that she's been cleaning up. He's sort of an oblivious man who doesn't know things changing in his apartment. Someone's been in there, a Mary Poppins figure, cleaning up for him. That's Faye. He doesn't seem to realize that, in fact, she's been in the apartment before where he's nearly seen her. But here he finds her at his apartment door. She's coming back to deliver goldfish to him. Here these characters meet up, although you see her cover her face with the fish. Her face is covered with this watery thing, and you can't see the whole person. You can only see a blurry image of her. That is an image that you see throughout the movie. These characters sort of blurred in some way. The fish, though, is a gift. She is a gift giver. These are yellow fish, actually goldfish that relate to pineapple in California. And you get that she's going to replenish his tank and give him some extra fish that will liven up his apartment and give him literally life, more life into the apartment. I love that these characters might come together and meet up, and I think at the end we hope that they become a couple. Although the movie does leave us hanging in like a fragmented way. We haven't seen the whole thing. The whole story doesn't end, at least the second one. But yet this very image, and I think this whole shot and sequence, is hope that Faye and the cop are going to get together and maybe enjoy a life in the urban environment. They'll get out and go to a farm or something like that. There are so many other shots in this movie that I find remarkable that depict all the things I just mentioned, but there are more things to talk about in this movie. It's delightful on the one hand to look at. It's glitzy, it's glamorous, it's got a lot of great effects in it. It really is a movie that calls attention to its own style. On the other hand, it's about loss and loneliness in part, the isolation of an urban environment in this case. These characters long for something that they can't get. So that blend of glitziness and longing is a really stark, contrast, but they're brought together, I think, really well in this movie. I watched this movie recently. I was hypnotized by it once again. I think viewers will continue to be. It is aching and affecting, and it's a very different kind of unique romantic comedy noir thing that you just don't see a movie like this and haven't in the last 20 to 30 years. So I hope people keep watching this movie and studying, because it does get better upon studying its shots, its imagery, its sound, and its ideas. What do you think of Chungking Express? What do you think of this video? Let us know in the comments. Please subscribe to this channel for more great content. Thank you and have a great day.